The conflict in Ukraine is taking a new turn as Ukrainian forces expand their military operations towards the Kursk region, causing a strategic shift in the battlefield situation. According to an updated battle map from the Institute for the Study of War, new offensive positions have been established in the northern region, reflecting significant changes in territorial control and force deployment. These developments have not only increased pressure on Russian defenses but also forced them to reallocate military resources, marking a critical stage in the conflict. Latest is map analysis. According to the latest report from the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, Ukrainian forces have conducted significant offensive operations in the Kursk Oblast, causing significant changes in territorial control. Ukrainian units initiated a series of company-sized mechanized attacks in the Berdyan-Novosotnitsky direction, involving a large number of armored vehicles equivalent to battalion size. These advances have significantly expanded the Ukrainian zone of control, including the areas south of Berdyan, the fields around Cherkaskoye Poreknoye, Martinovka, and Mikhailovka. To date, Ukraine has captured 585 km2 of Russian territory, especially in the northeast of Sudza, where fierce fighting continues. In response, Russia has stepped up its defenses, deploying key units, such as the 155th Naval Brigade in Kursk Oblast, the Akhmat Special Forces from Chechnya, and Wagner veterans to support the defense lines. However, Ukraine's superiority in electronic warfare has severely disrupted the operations of Russian drones, hampering efforts to protect strategic positions from mechanized attacks. Compared to previous periods, the battlefield has changed significantly. Although Russia has recaptured about 40% of the territory once controlled by Ukraine, it has not been able to completely eliminate the presence of the Ukrainian army. In one day, Ukraine held 42 clashes with 12 battles taking place simultaneously, especially in key areas such as Leonidovo and Pushkarnoye. The Ukrainian platoon-sized mechanized attacks here, along with the advances west of Yamskaya Steppe and Novaya Sorokina, represent an expansion of the offensive strategy. Russian military analysts have raised significant concerns about Ukraine's ability to integrate advanced electronic warfare, long-range strikes, and ground operations into a highly effective combat strategy. These fears are underscored by the latest developments on the Ukraine 2024 battle map, which not only highlight Ukraine's technological advancements, but also reveal their sustained pressure on Russian defenses. This evolving situation has made the battlefield increasingly unpredictable and forced Russia to reconsider its defensive strategies. Ukrainian offensive strategy. This unpredictability is further emphasized by Ukraine's meticulously planned offensive in the Kursk region. Demonstrating exceptional tactical sophistication and strategic depth, the operation represents a major turning point in the conflict. As reflected in the most recent military maps from the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, the offensive signals a shift in battlefield dynamics and showcases Ukraine's ability to leverage its technological and operational strengths effectively. Ukrainian forces are conducting their offensive through multiple carefully chosen routes, rather than concentrating in a single direction. This strategy serves not only military objectives but also political ones, strengthening Kiev's position in future negotiations. Key objectives include destroying Russian airfields used to launch glide bombs, disrupting the logistics network supporting operations in Kharkiv, and putting pressure on the distribution of Russian forces along the front line. The operation involved a number of experienced units, demonstrating Ukraine's improved military capabilities. The 22nd Mechanized Corps played the main attacking role, while the 82nd and 95th Airborne Brigades were responsible for tactical support and mobile reserve. It is worth noting that Ukraine maintained excellent operational security, keeping its plans secret until the last minute, even from senior commanders. This allowed them to create an element of tactical surprise against the Russian defense forces. In terms of electronic warfare, Ukrainian forces demonstrated superiority while maintaining operational flexibility. Measures included the systematic suppression of Russian reconnaissance drones, the deployment of short-term jamming devices along the front line, and the disruption of radio communications in the Russian border area. The effectiveness of these measures was evident when Ukraine successfully neutralized Russian drones, including the Lancet hovering weapons. Despite Russia's attempts to counterattack, Ukraine maintained a technological advantage throughout the operation. The combination of superior electronic warfare and flexible use of internal lines of operations has allowed Ukraine to make the most of its tactical advantages. This has allowed them to concentrate their forces quickly at strategic decision points while minimizing their vulnerability to Russian counterattacks. Ukraine's recent successes on the battlefield, as highlighted in the IS battle map, showcase a remarkable integration of electronic warfare and ground operations. A critical element of this success is the suppression of enemy drones, which play a significant role in modern warfare, accounting for nearly 2/3 of tank losses. These achievements not only underscore Ukraine's technological advancements but also demonstrate its capacity for strategic innovation and adaptability against a formidable adversary like Russia. Russian defense response. Faced with mounting pressure from these effective Ukrainian offensives, Russia has responded by implementing extensive defensive measures along the Kursk front. The Russian military command has reinforced its positions with significant troop deployments, including approximately 11,000 North Korean soldiers, to stabilize the situation. Military analysts note that North Korean infantry are being utilized for key defensive roles in the Kursk Oblast, while Russian airborne units focus on counter-attack operations in the Sudzha direction, and artillery groups provide fire support in the Burden sector. This large-scale response reflects Russia's efforts to contain Ukraine's advance and mitigate the growing challenges posed by its adversaries' technological and strategic superiority. Russia has also built what is considered the largest defensive fortification system in Europe since World War II. The system includes about 2,000 kilometers of trenches, of which 1,000 kilometers lie inside Ukraine, minefields 120 to 500 meters deep, and multiple layers of anti-tank barriers. These structures are designed to slow Ukrainian advances and lead them into areas where Russia can exploit its defensive advantages. The fierce fighting at Kursk has taken a heavy toll on both sides. Ukraine has reported heavy losses to Russia, with official figures recording 6,662 Russian soldiers killed, 10,446 wounded, and 711 captured since August 8. Russian sources, meanwhile, give different figures, claiming that about 340 Ukrainian soldiers have been killed or wounded in the past 24 hours. The Russian Defense Ministry also claimed to have repelled several Ukrainian attacks near Burden, destroying 2 tanks, a military engineering vehicle, and 7 armored vehicles. The latest Ukraine battle map from the Institute for the Study of War, ISW, shows that Russian forces have recaptured about 40% of the territory initially held by Ukraine. However, despite heavy losses, Russian units remain focused on defense. The 2024 Ukraine battle map shows that artillery and air groups from the northern group are actively engaged in fighting to stop Ukrainian offensive formations. This strategy reflects Russia's efforts to maintain a strong defense in the face of increasing pressure from Ukrainian attacks. Territorial control assessment. In parallel, recent assessments of territorial control reveal substantial changes in the Kursk region. The Ukrainian war map from ISW illustrates not only the evolving defensive positions of Russian forces, but also the offensive advances achieved by Ukrainian units across multiple sectors. These shifts underscore the dynamic nature of the battlefield, where both sides continue to vie for strategic dominance in a highly contested and fluid environment. According to the latest analysis, Ukrainian forces now control 585 km² of Russian territory, including 74 settlements that have been brought under Ukrainian administration. The Ukrainian-controlled area ranges from urban centers and rural areas to border regions where military activity is ongoing. However, the boundaries are unstable, with many areas still disputed. Areas such as the fields southwest of Burden, the Sudzha neighborhood, and the areas north of Zaleshinka are witnessing heavy fighting. Although Russia has retaken about 40% of the territory captured during Ukraine's August offensive, the battlefield remains highly dynamic, with constant counterattacks from both sides seeking to gain a tactical advantage. Strategic positions established by Ukraine near Sudzha have played a key role in the current situation. These positions not only disrupt Russian logistics but also threaten critical infrastructure and control strategic transportation routes. The effectiveness of these positions was demonstrated by the destruction of several bridges vital to Russian logistics and a major oil depot by Ukrainian forces. Military analysts believe that Ukraine has positioned its forces to threaten logistical supply lines, as well as electricity and gas centers essential to the Russian military. The Ukrainian war map also shows that some 15,000 Ukrainian troops participated in the initial offensive, expanding the area of control from a few hundred square kilometers to more than double in a matter of weeks. This expansion forced Russia to mobilize 30,000 troops to stop Ukraine's advance. Furthermore, successful Ukrainian attacks on critical infrastructure deep inside Russian territory, including fuel depots, oil refineries, and power stations, have severely impacted Russian military logistics and the economy. These actions demonstrate that Ukraine has not only gained a tactical advantage but has also weakened Russia's combat capabilities and supply lines, creating long-term implications for the battlefield situation. Military equipment deployment. Meanwhile, recent developments in the Kursk region show extensive military equipment deployments from both sides, as reflected in the latest Ukraine map. These strategic placements highlight the evolving dynamics of the conflict as both forces adapt to new challenges and intensify their efforts. Ukrainian forces launched their offensive with a meticulously planned combination of armored units. The assault group included 2 tanks, 1 mine-clearing vehicle, and 12 armored combat vehicles carrying paratroopers. Analysts note that Ukrainian commanders have strategically utilized Bradley fighting vehicles to support infantry operations, mine-clearing vehicles to lead assault formations, and armored columns to advance through the snowy terrain, maximizing mobility and combat efficiency. On the other hand, Russian forces have fortified their defensive positions with a range of combat systems. Their defenses are bolstered by active self-propelled artillery, anti-tank systems positioned at forward lines, and armored reserves stationed in secondary defensive layers. Despite these preparations, the Russian Ministry of Defense claims to have destroyed 273 Ukrainian tanks and 44 rocket launch systems since the start of Ukraine's August offensive. However, Ukrainian sources contest these figures, highlighting their successful breaches of Russian defensive lines. Electronic warfare, ISW, has emerged as a decisive factor in shaping the battlefield. Ukrainian forces have demonstrated a significant technological edge, employing advanced electronic countermeasures to neutralize Russian drone operations. Recent engagement data reveals that of 103 Russian drones deployed overnight, 61 were destroyed by Ukrainian air defense systems, while 42 were rendered ineffective due to electronic jamming. This superiority in EU systems has disrupted Russian reconnaissance efforts, diminishing their ability to effectively monitor and respond to Ukrainian advances. Both sides continue to adapt their strategies in response to the dynamic conflict environment, as reflected in the latest Ukraine battle map for 2024. This ongoing evolution is characterized by a continuous interplay of equipment deployments and operational adjustments. While Russian forces report the destruction of 5 Ukrainian drones over their territory, Ukrainian commanders highlight their ongoing success in leveraging electronic warfare to counter Russian surveillance systems. These technological advancements and tactical innovations are playing a pivotal role in shaping the battlefield's outcome. Battlefield dynamics. In the Kursk region, combat operations have significantly intensified, with reports indicating 42 distinct clashes occurring in just one day. The Ukraine map illustrates a complex and highly dynamic battlefield environment, where both Ukrainian and Russian forces are facing a multitude of challenges and responding with evolving strategies. This ongoing intensity underscores the critical role of technology and adaptability in determining the course of the conflict. Urban combat has reached unprecedented levels, with intense fighting in several settlement areas. This has resulted in high casualty rates and limited evacuation capabilities, as military operations in these urban zones continue to disrupt movement and hinder evacuation efforts. The ongoing urban defense in multiple sectors has created further complications, making it difficult for commanders to extract casualties and maintain operational fluidity. The terrain has also played a critical role in shaping military movements. The battlefield is primarily composed of 3 operational environments: forested areas near the Vorontsov Tract, open fields southwest of Berden, and settlement clusters around Suja. Ukrainian forces have successfully adapted to the terrain, using tree lines for cover during mechanized advances. Additionally, the lightly defended border areas and intact road networks in the Sumy and Kursk oblasts have provided opportunities for rapid advances. Weather conditions, particularly the winter freeze, have emerged as a crucial factor in operations. The frozen ground has facilitated the movement of Ukrainian armored units across previously challenging terrain. Clear weather has also improved visibility and enhanced the mobility of armored columns, further benefiting Ukrainian forces. In contrast, Russian forces are struggling to maintain their defensive positions, especially in areas where limited muddy conditions complicate operations. The Ukraine map today shows how Ukrainian forces have effectively utilized preparatory fires to slow Russia's ability to respond quickly to incursions, supported by strikes on Russian WAs and airfields. These actions have provided temporary relief from persistent Russian surveillance, while Ukrainian deception and camouflage tactics have helped conceal their operations, making it difficult for Russian commanders to assess the likelihood of attacks. Currently, the battlefield is characterized by intense artillery and small arms combat, with Ukraine employing Western armored vehicles to transport infantry to forward positions. The Ukraine map time-elapse illustrates how these tactical advantages have allowed Ukrainian forces to maintain operational momentum, despite the challenging conditions on the ground. Strategic implications. The Kursk offensive, however, has not only affected the immediate battlefield dynamics but has also fundamentally altered the strategic landscape of the conflict. Moscow has been forced to reassess its force distribution and operational priorities as it responds to the Ukrainian advance. The latest ISW Ukraine map reflects substantial changes in Russian military positioning across multiple fronts, demonstrating the significant impact of the offensive on both sides' strategic calculations. These shifts underline the evolving nature of the conflict and the broader implications for future military and diplomatic developments. As a direct result of the offensive, Russia has had to undertake extensive troop redeployments, stretching its defensive capabilities across a broader area. Military analysts report that Moscow has redeployed approximately 30,000 troops from eastern Ukraine to the Kursk region, creating significant operational challenges. In addition to regular forces, Russia has also deployed 11,000 North Korean troops to support operations, while local militia forces have been positioned along secondary lines of defense. This redistribution of forces has placed considerable strain on Russian operations, particularly in eastern Ukraine. The reallocation of forces has had a significant impact on operations in the Donetsk region. The ISW Ukraine war map for 2024 indicates that Russian forces have intensified their push in the Pokrovsk region, achieving their fastest pace of advancement this year. This has led to a substantial increase in combat clashes, with 68 reported in just 24 hours. The logistical centers of Pokrovsk and Kursk have also come under intensified assault, and Russian forces have captured strategic positions, including Hanovka north of Pokrovsk. This move threatens Ukraine's only colliery producing coking coal for its steel industry, underscoring the high stakes in the region. The offensive has triggered substantial shifts in the regional military balance. The ISW Ukraine interactive map shows that Russia's ability to generate strategic reserves has been severely tested. The deployment of North Korean troops suggests limited domestic reserves, and these units have already suffered several hundred casualties. Furthermore, Russian forces are increasingly reliant on conscript formations, further revealing the strain on their military resources. These challenges have allowed Ukrainian forces to exploit Russia's vulnerabilities, particularly in terms of force distribution. The Ukraine frontline map illustrates how Ukrainian forces have gained an advantage by exploiting interior lines of communication, enabling them to move personnel and supplies more efficiently than their Russian counterparts. This strategic edge is particularly significant as Russia struggles to maintain adequate force levels along the extended front. The ISW Ukraine map today shows that Russian forces are facing mounting challenges in managing multiple operational priorities. In recent engagements, up to a battalion of infantry, including North Korean soldiers and Russian paratroopers, has been lost. As these strategic shifts unfold, the ISW Ukraine map time-lapse demonstrates the evolution of the battlefield over time. Russian forces now face the complex task of balancing defensive operations in the Kursk region while maintaining offensive momentum in eastern Ukraine. This dilemma has led Moscow to increasingly rely on North Korean support, with 11,000 North Korean troops now deployed in the region. Military analysts believe that these developments have strengthened Ukraine's negotiating position, providing Kyiv with valuable leverage for potential peace talks. Maintaining territorial control in Kursk offers Ukraine significant diplomatic leverage, positioning it advantageously for future negotiations. International response. The diplomatic landscape surrounding the Kursk offensive has shifted dramatically, prompting international stakeholders to reassess their positions. Initially skeptical about Ukraine's decision to enter Russian territory, American officials have adjusted their stance as the operation's impact became clear. Western nations have continued their support for Ukraine, closely monitoring the situation's evolution. The United States remains crucial in determining Ukraine's security future. President Zelensky has stressed that any effective security guarantees will require American involvement, particularly under the incoming Trump administration. This has led to discussions about post-conflict security arrangements and NATO's continuing importance. The operation's success has not only restored Western confidence in Ukraine's military capability, but also improved its negotiating position, boosting alliance cohesion, and demonstrated Ukraine's ability to challenge the narrative of a military stalemate. On the other hand, Moscow's diplomatic response has been swift and multifaceted. The Russian Foreign Ministry has opposed international media coverage, summoning a senior U.S. diplomat to protest what it calls provocative actions by American journalists in the Kursk region. Russia's diplomatic assertions have focused on allegations of U.S. private military company involvement, Western media provocations, and violations of Russian sovereignty. Putin has attempted to downplay the significance of the Ukrainian incursion, suggesting negotiations should be based on the 2022 Istanbul Agreement. The regional security landscape has also shifted. Germany has led efforts to hold Russia accountable for violations of international conventions, including chemical weapons use, attacks on civilian infrastructure, and war crimes. The offensive has raised broader questions about European security architecture. Military analysts suggest that meaningful negotiations will depend on factors like significant Russian battlefield losses, increasing diplomatic isolation, and a deteriorating regional security situation. The presence of 11,000 North Korean troops in the region has undeniably complicated the security dynamics, with Ukrainian forces inflicting significant casualties on these units. The international community has escalated pressure on Russia, backing Ukraine's defense, while holding those trading with Russia accountable for enabling potential war crimes. This offensive has effectively challenged Russia's narrative of the conflict as a proxy war with the West, boosting confidence in Ukraine's military and reinforcing trust in Kiev's leadership. As the situation continues to evolve, what do you think the next steps for Ukraine and the international community should be in addressing this complex conflict?